It looked like a nice day, but of course, my office quickly got buried in papers, and suddenly it was nighttime. I was utterly exhausted. I was practically dozing off while driving, somehow managed to make it home, and there I was, watching TV. Then, out of nowhere, they started talking about this brilliant idea of becoming an Uber driver so you can make money sitting down. Genius, right? So, the next day, I started. I was happily humming my favorite song when my first notification popped up on my phone. This was my big chance. I drove a bunch of people. Some were quieter. Maybe they liked the silence. Others were more talkative. But of course, all they wanted to do was talk about their ex. And some, boring, utterly boring. But a few passengers, some gorgeous. Yeah, I think I fell in love. I got to the park and started counting my money. Everything was fine, until these drunk idiots showed up. Oh God, they're unbearable. I think I'll be heading back to the office tomorrow.
So, the other day I went down a serious rabbit hole. I was watching this tutorial on how to launch one of those viral faceless channels dedicated to Wojak, and honestly, I just had to try it out for myself. But obviously, I needed to put my own spin on it. In case you've been living under a rock and don't know what I'm talking about, Wojak is this massive internet meme. It's that simple, crudely drawn illustration of a bald, melancholy guy. The name actually comes from ancient Polish, meaning soldier or fighter, which adds this weirdly deep layer to a funny drawing. Believe it or not, there are currently about 3 distinct faceless YouTube channels entirely dedicated to Wojak animation that have racked up thousands upon thousands of subscribers, like Lord Wojak, Low Budget Stories, and Zero Budget Stories. One of the videos that really caught my eye was about Wojak's life as an Uber driver. It was oddly compelling. So, I grabbed that concept and decided to see if I could replicate that style using a specific stack of AI tools. If you're looking for YouTube niche ideas, this one is fascinating. Here is exactly the step-by-step workflow I used to make it happen using artificial intelligence. Now, as someone who considers themselves a cultured and educated scholar in the universe of memes, the very first thing I did was hit the research phase. I scoured the respected corners of the internet to find high-quality images of the characters. I took screenshots and hoarded them in a folder on my trusty laptop, like they were digital gold. I also ran a few tests by capturing screenshots of characters directly from videos by creators like Lord Wojak, just to see if I could get a consistent look. Alright, before we really dive into the meat of this AI tutorial, let me just clarify something. You can use whatever AI tools you prefer. I'm just going to show you the specific stack I used because it worked seamlessly for me. If you want to give this exact workflow a shot, you can check out the links I've dropped in the description. So, for the image generation, I headed straight over to Nano Banana Pro. Specifically, I used the unlimited version so I wouldn't burn through all the credits in my Higgsfield plan. This is a crucial tip if you're planning on iterating a lot. The strategy here was to use the screenshots I collected as reference images. I paired those references with a really powerful prompt to generate full-body photos of the characters. Why full body? Because when you're trying to build a brand or a faceless channel, consistency is king. And voila! By generating these master images of Wojak and the other characters first, it became infinitely easier to preserve their look in future scenes without having to write insanely complicated prompts every single time. The results were honestly pretty impressive. Once I had these master assets, I could ask Nano Banana Pro to do pretty much anything. I could describe what clothes the characters should be wearing, exactly how they should be positioned, what action they are performing, and what the background scenery should look like. Starting with the first image of Wojak, I felt it made sense to set the scene with him grinding away at his office job. I kept it simple. I just asked the AI to have him sitting there with his laptop. Now, here is where it gets cool. Using that exact same reference image, I asked the AI to recreate the same scene, same office, same desk, same character. But this time, I wanted him to look tired and disheveled, and I wanted the lighting to indicate it was nighttime. My idea here was to create a time-lapse clip to show the passage of time. A classic before and after. The AI nailed it and actually created a version of the Doomer character variant, which fit perfectly. I decided to keep the momentum going with this same photo base. I generated an image of him driving his car on the commute back home. Then, I created the next beat in the story, the same messy, tired character sitting on his couch watching TV. This is the pivotal moment where he hears about the idea of becoming an Uber driver. For the transformation scene, I uploaded the reference image of Wojak again, but this time I asked Nano Banana Pro to change his clothes, put him back in his vehicle, but make him look happy, or at least as happy as Wojak can look, to illustrate that he was starting a fresh new freelance job. To give the video a more personal touch and introduce some conflict, I used the image of Wojak inside the vehicle and combined it with an image of the Art Ho Wojak character. I wanted the scene to look like she was his passenger. At first, the AI gave me an image of just the car interior without Wojak, which happens sometimes. So I just asked it to explicitly add him back in, and boom, problem solved. I rinsed and repeated this process for the other passengers. I used the same car interior base and added Trad Girl, simply changing Wojak's facial expression and swapping out the scenery visible through the car window to imply he was driving around different parts of the city. I continued this assembly line with the Zoomer character, Daddy's Girl, and Doomerette. I even created a chaotic scene of some NPC Wojak stumbling around drunk for the finale. One of the killer features of Nano Banana Pro is that you can combine elements from up to 14 different photos. That is how I managed to create the final group shot where all the characters are standing up. Okay, so we have the static assets. Now it was time to roll up the sleeves and start creating the actual video clips. This is where we turn this into a Wojak animation tutorial. For this, I switched over to Kling AI, specifically the Kling O1 model. This is their most recent model, and it is a game changer for two reasons. First, it has this start and end frame option, which gives you way more control over the movement. Second, and more importantly for my wallet, it is unlimited and doesn't consume your Higgsfield plan credits. I made sure my settings were dialed in for a standard video. You know the drill? Aspect ratio set to 16:9, duration set to 5 seconds, the unlimited option toggled on, and the model set to Kling O1. I simply uploaded the group photo of my characters, and in the prompt, I just indicated that everyone is waving. The clip it generated was surprisingly accurate. It didn't look glitchy or weird. It just worked. Now pay attention to the second clip, because this is where that start and end frame feature shines. Remember that office scene? I wanted to simulate a time-lapse. So, I uploaded the morning office image as the start frame and the tired nighttime doomer image as the end frame. The prompt I used was, gradually, the desk fills with papers and the character looks increasingly tired and disheveled until it becomes nighttime. As you can see, it is pretty straightforward. I am not an expert animator by any means, but I managed to get that time-lapse clip you are seeing on the screen right now. I continued this process for the rest of the images. Honestly, I think animating the images was actually the easiest part of the whole workflow because the story was already told through the static images. Kling AI just needed to add a little bit of life to them. That is how I generated the scenes where Wojak is driving and chauffeuring the other characters around. However, I did run into a slight hiccup. It turns out that in some of the clips, it looked like he was driving backwards, like full-on driving in the wrong direction against traffic. It was funny, but not what I wanted. I will show you how to correct that problem with a single click in the editing phase later, so if that happens to you, don't panic and don't waste time regenerating the clip. Oh, by the way, while I was deep in the trenches working on these clips, I stumbled across a new option in Higgsfield AI called Skin Enhancer. I decided to test it out on my own avatar. Let me know in the comments if you prefer seeing my avatar with that improved skin texture, or if it looks too uncanny. Finally, I reached the stage of creating the script and the voiceover. For this part, the script was basically just a narration of what the images were showing. It's a literal description of the action in the clips. Because of that, I didn't feel the need to use AI to write the script for me. I just described the story myself. That said, if you are looking to scale this and want YouTube niche ideas that are more automated, or if you want to replicate a specific viral video, you could transcribe that video and feed it into ChatGPT to get an alternative story. But personally, for this video, I felt comfortable just riffing and narrating the history of Wojak's shift as a driver. For the voice, you have two solid options. If you watch the video by AI Sentry, you'll notice he actually has the specific voice files for the characters. If you saw the video by Big Steps Media, you'll see that you can clone voices using ElevenLabs. Since I am already an avid user of ElevenLabs, that is exactly what I did. I went to the Clone Your Voice option, hit the Instant Voice Clone button, and uploaded a short audio sample of the classic Wojak Voice. Of course, if you want to use a different voice, maybe something unique to your channel to help you stand out from the competition, that is totally a valid strategy for an AI faceless YouTube channel. Once the voice was cloned and ready, I went to the text-to-speech section and pasted in my narration. Here is a pro tip. For the narration, I wasn't just pasting raw text. You will notice that I added descriptions of the narrator's emotions inside brackets. I did this because I am using the ElevenLabs V3 model, which is arguably the most powerful model right now for creating voices with distinct emotional range. I did this so Wojak's voice wouldn't sound like a monotone robot the entire time. I wanted to give it some rhythm, you know. This function is also super useful if you are thinking about creating dialogue between two or more characters within your story. You just have to hit the Add Speaker button. ElevenLabs gave me two options to choose from, so I just picked the one that sounded best to my ear.
It looked like a nice day, but of course my office quickly got buried in papers and suddenly it was nighttime.
I didn't stop there though. I also created the background song using ElevenLabs. I just clicked on the music option, added my prompt describing the vibe I wanted, chose the duration, and specifically asked for it to be instrumental only, no vocals. It gave me 4 variations. I just listened through them and picked the one that fit the mood. If you watch those popular Wojak channels, you will notice they use a lot of specific audio effects to make the simple animation feel dynamic. So, I clicked on sound effects and searched for the sounds I needed, like the sound of paper stacking up on the desk, or a cell phone notification ping. For the ones I couldn't find in the library, I just generated them from scratch using the prompt box. It's simply wild. Now, for the final assembly, I imported all my assets into CapCut. I placed the clips one after another on the timeline, layered in the narration, and dropped the background music underneath. Editing in CapCut was super straightforward. And honestly, this is a key takeaway. The entire process, from creating the images in Higgsfield, animating them in Kling AI O1, generating the audio, and the final edit, needs to be simple. If your workflow is too complicated, it takes too much time, and you will end up abandoning the idea of running your faceless channel. To spice up the edit, I increased the speed on some of the clips just a tiny bit so the animation didn't look so slow and draggy. I added keyframes at strategic points to create a slow zoom effect. This adds drama. And right underneath those zoom moments, I added a swoosh sound effect to emphasize the movement. For Wojak's face in one of the scenes, I went to the Effects tab and added an effect called Electric Storm. You might also notice that some clips blend into each other really well. I achieved that using soft transitions. I found them in the Transitions tab, searched for Overlay, and found one called Mix. Now, remember that issue where Kling AI generated the driving clip in reverse? To fix that, I just selected the clip in CapCut and hit the button right above the timeline toolbar. There is an option called Reverse. I clicked that, and boom, CapCut flipped the playback, correcting the scene so he's driving forward. If your video generates with the car on the wrong side of the road or something, you can also use the mirror option there to flip it horizontally. And that, my friends, is exactly how I would build my own faceless YouTube channel centered around Wojak. By the way, a big shout out to AI Century because their tutorial is honestly on another level. I simply wanted to share how I would approach it personally and add a few more details regarding the voice, the script, and the editing workflow. And a big shout out as well to all the creators mentioned in this video. They're proof that it really is possible to create faceless content and make money online. Just a reminder, my content is strictly educational. I'm not giving out financial advice here because any business venture, even a meme channel, requires actual effort and grit. Thank you so much for watching my video. Peace out.